The factor that most affects life in temperate forest is the variable food supply. At all levels, from the treetops to the forest floor, the life cycles of forest animals living in temperate forest move in step with the seasons so that they produce their young when food is easiest to find. Life is relatively easy in spring and summer, but in winter, when the food supply is at its lowest, special adaptations are needed for survival. As a habitat, deciduous temperate forests, the kind of forest found across much of the northern hemisphere, have one very useful feature in common. The trees that grow in them, such as oaks and beeches, produce leaves that are designed to last for just one growing season. As a result, these leaves are usually thin and easy to eat, which is why vast numbers of insects feast on them as soon as they begin to appear in spring. This sudden explosion of insect life attracts an army of highly specialized avian predators. In Europe, Northern Asia, and North America, dozens of warbler species migrate north as the buds open. These birds have extremely acute eyesight, enabling them to scour leaves for the tiniest grubs and caterpillars, which they then pick up with their tweezer-like bills. Other birds, including tree creepers, woodpeckers, and nuthatches, concentrate on the bark, seeking out and pecking at the tiny animals hidden among the crevices. By midsummer, leaves stop growing, and animal feeding behavior changes. Most temperate trees are pollinated by wind, and do not need to produce enticing nectar-rich flowers. However, they do produce large crops of nuts and other seeds, which are extremely important foods for animals because, unlike leaves, they can be stored away and used when other food is scarce. Food storage, or caching, is practiced by many forest birds and mammals. Jays bury acorns in the ground, while acorn woodpeckers store them in trees. Squirrels bury seeds of all kinds, and red foxes bury anything that is even remotely edible, from half-eaten remains to food wrappers and discarded shoes. Some animals locate their reserves by scent, but most can pinpoint them by memory alone, finding and digging up their food even when it is covered by snow. Seed caching has an important impact on forest ecology. Although animals that bury seeds have good memories, some of what they hide is always forgotten about. This means that provided the seeds are not discovered by rodents or other animals, they remain effectively planted and ready to germinate, helping the forest trees to reproduce. In autumn, many insect-eating birds migrate to warmer climates, leaving the forest's remaining animals to face the winter cold. Animals that store food can remain active throughout this difficult time of year, but others use a very different survival strategy. They hibernate, living on the fat reserves they have built up during the summer months. How long and how deeply an animal hibernates depends on where it lives. In the forests of northwest Europe, hedgehogs may hibernate for up to 6 months, whereas farther south their winter sleep is much shorter. In eastern North America, woodchucks, or groundhogs, typically hibernate from October to February. Their wanderings early in the year are a traditional sign that spring is not far off. Some hibernating animals, such as the common dormouse, hardly ever interrupt their winter break, even if they are picked up. However, many hibernators behave in a different way. If the weather turns warm, they briefly rouse themselves. Bats, for example, take to the air for feeding flights, while hedgehogs often move out of one hibernation nest and into another. But forest hibernators have to be careful not to do this too often. Activity uses up their bodily food reserves, and it therefore puts them at risk of running out before the winter is truly over. Many insects also hibernate, often hidden under bark, but, in some species, the adults die out, leaving behind tough, overwintering eggs that will hatch in spring.